What's up, pussies? I am the Heavy Metal Dick, and this is Heavy Metal Homesteading. Today we're going to do episode 1 of our cooking series. We're going to do the most basic thing that everybody eats every day, unless you're gluten-free, then you suck. We're going to make bread. Simple, easy bread. Let's get to it. Okay, so the bread we're going to make is going to be a whole wheat bread, so I've got whole wheat flour. I'm going to dump a bunch of that into the bowl. Whole wheat flour. How much? No idea. About that much. White bread flour. Throw a bit of that in there. Just like that. Salt. Just a pinch of salt for flavor. And we're going to make a well in the middle of the flour. Like this. Okay. And then yeast. Okay, basically we're going to cover the bottom of that well with yeast. That's really all that bread is. Yeast, flour, salt, lukewarm water. Your water's too cold, it's not the end of the world, but it'll just take way longer to ferment your bread. So we're just going to start off by putting a little bit of water in here, just to dissolve the yeast up. Get in there with our hands. Get that yeast in there. Get it dissolved. Once your yeast is dissolved and it's starting to froth up nicely like that, you can pour in some more water. This is just an eyeball rough bread recipe. Well, it's not really a recipe. We're just making this by eye. Fire some water into it. Start mixing that into your flour. Okay, I can see that it's really clumpy and dry, so I'm going to hit it with just a little bit more water. Mix it up again. Now it looks clumpy and dry, but as you're going to knead this dough, it's going to start to come together. So before you start getting all excited about adding more water to it, and knead it until it's nice and uniform. Then we can add some more water. Alright. So this dough ball that I'm working in the middle is still quite damp. So we're just going to keep working that over the dry parts until it starts to feel really hard and dry, which it's getting to right about now. We're going to drive some more water in there. Can also do this with beer. Beer bread is delicious. Okay. If you got a friend that likes to come over and drink half your fucking beers and leave them lying around your house and then drink another half your beer and another half of your beer and you got a bunch of half fucking beers lying around, you can just make beer bread. Okay, so now we've got our dough is starting to come together, but you see it rips apart really easily. Okay, now we're going to knead the dough to develop gluten. Gluten is good. Gluten is protein. More protein, more better. We're just going to dust our countertop here very lightly with a bit of flour. The idea is just enough flour so the dough doesn't stick to the counter. We don't want a shitload of flour, because then you're just going to add more flour to your dough, then the dough is going to get dry again, and you're going to need more water and start dicking around. So there's a proper process that we chefs have for how you're supposed to knead dough, and just don't worry about it. Just push it into your counter, fold it, turn it, push it again. You don't have to be super specific, as long as you're moving the dough around, and really what you're doing is on this edge right here, as I'm pushing, it's stretching that gluten. And basically what we're doing is we're working that gluten protein just like you work your muscles at the gym. If you go to the gym, unless you're a fat lazy sack of shit, then you don't. But we're just going to work that until that protein develops. And that protein is what is going to hold on to the air when we bake the bread and when it rises. Alright, so this is just a straight white flour dough. This would come really, really nice and smooth when it's done eating. Because this is a whole wheat flour dough, there's bran in there, and the bran will actually cut up the gluten as you're kneading it. So, just because I've done this a million times and I've got lots of practice, this is the point where dough is done kneading. So we're just going to take that, we're going to put it back in the bowl, we're going to set it on a warm place on the stove top. We're going to turn the oven on in just a minute here, get it preheating, and while that's sitting there, we're going to get a clean dish rag. We're just going to give a little bit of water on that dish rag just so that it's damp. Alright, it doesn't have to be soaking wet. Actually, soaking wet's really bad because then it'll make your dough wet. Just so that it's damp. And that's just going to stop the dough from drying out on top as it ferments. So now I'm just going to turn my oven on to preheat. Doesn't really matter what temperature. Then we're going to set that over the vent and let that do its thing for a bit. Once it's done its thing, it's going to double in size. We'll come back and we'll do the next step. So here's our bread dough. It's easily doubled in size. So now we're in the next process of making the bread. Is my favorite part of making bread. This process is called punching. So what we're doing here is we're just pushing all of the air out of the dough that's come in from the fermentation process. This will get rid of any sort of big uneven bubbles. Then we're going to round it off. So we're just going to put it on the counter. There's a couple of different methods for doing this. You can bunch it all up and then sort of just squeeze it into a round like that. Or the way that we do it in the industry is we put it down on the table. We're going to put a little bit of pressure with the bottoms of your hands kind of under the dough and then put a little bit of pressure on the top of the dough. We're going to roll it in a circle to get a nice smooth round ball with a really small seam on the bottom. And then we're going to leave it to double in size again. Alright, so here we've doubled in size again. We're going to take this out of the bowl. We're just going to flatten it out a bit. Make kind of an oval shape. Fold in the ends, and then we're just going to roll it up nice. And that's going to be our loaf. We're going to put it in our loaf pan here. Before we do that, we got to grease it up. I'm just going to take a little chunk of butter, chuck it in there, fucking smash that all around. Put a little bit more butter on top of the loaf. Because butter's fucking awesome. And you guessed it, we're going to let that sit until it's doubled in size again. Same deal. Damp towel. Top. We'll come back to that in a bit. Okay, so here's the bread. It's finally come up to double in size. Remember we put it in here, it was kind of just above the rim. And now it's nice and fully over, giving us that nice bread shape as it comes out of the loaf pan. I've got the oven preheated to 350 degrees with convection. If you've got a convection oven, I like to use convection when I'm baking my breads because it gives you a more even crust. If you don't have a convection oven, you're just going to end up with a firmer crust on the bottom than on the top. There's a couple of things you can do to get a better crust on top. You can brush your bread with egg wash. You can also cook it at a slightly higher temperature to start with, like 375 with a little bit of water, which will create some steam. It'll get the bread to rise, and then as the steam cooks off of the top of the bread, it'll help the crust form, which sounds counterintuitive, but it does actually work. But yeah, if you've got a convection oven, and you want just a simple, easy, all-around crust, use it. The best breads are honestly cooked in a stone hearth oven, right from the bottom, right on the stone. But let's be realistic. We live in fucking conventional houses with conventional ovens. So this is what we're doing. We're going to fire that in there. That's going to take about a half an hour to bake. So we'll come back in about 20 minutes and take a look at where it's going. See, the bread's popped up a little bit more, and we got a nice crust starting. And check and see if it's cooked. We're going to tap it. Here it's got that dull thud. A cooked loaf of bread will sound hollow inside. It's actually best to check it from the bottom. Yeah, really dull, thuddy sound that's not quite cooked yet. So we're just going to fire that back in the oven for about another 10 minutes. Alright, let's have another look. See how it's got that nice, lighter pitched hollow sound now? Not that dull thud we were hearing earlier. That is a done loaf of bread. So we want to make sure that we cool our bread out of the pan. Usually on a rack or something, but I usually just kind of set it sideways on top of the pan. Like that. That's it. Shut the oven off. Let the bread cool. Then we're good to go. Okay, so we've let the bread cool for a couple hours here. And now we're going to show you what it looks like on the inside. And there we have it. A nice uniform crumb structure. That's from the process of squeezing the bread out and punching it down and letting it rise and all that stuff. That's it. Bread. It's easy. Don't be scared. Make your own bread. The entirety of the time it took to make this video is all the work it actually takes, plus some extra time for talking. You just need some time to let it wait. So while you're doing other stuff around the house, you know, fucking cleaning your house, start some bread. Clean a room, come back, do the next task, so on and so forth. It's easy. Alright. Fuck you.